I could have had a Kanye West moment, but I didn't because I hesitated. I was afraid. And as a result, it still bothers me to this day. It was last November, Thanksgiving of 2015.
Wait a second. The Kanye West moment you keep referring to happened in 2005. You've been doing public speaking for 8 years, according to your website. Your Kanye West moment, the one that you missed out on, occurred last year. So for 10 years from the exemplative Kanye West moment, you haven't had a Kanye West moment? Or, maybe I'm mishearing you, in those 10 years you hadn't gained the courage to speak up despite the consequences? This is a really odd beginning to a story, given what you've given us so far in this talk.
My dad and I, we go over to his friend's parents' house to spend Thanksgiving. And so it's me, my dad, the friend's wife, the friend's mother, and the friend's stepfather. We're all just the six of us. And for the last few years, I've been accustomed to pretty big family gatherings for Thanksgiving. And now all of a sudden it's just going to be a bunch of older people, and I'm kind of bored, and I don't know if I could relate with anyone. But, I'm going to make do.
Okay, so you and your dad are guests for Thanksgiving at your dad's friend's parents' house. Got it.
And so I'm sitting there in the living room, I'm watching the Cowboys game, and my dad is having a conversation with his stepfather. And, they were both in the military, so, they're exchanging war stories and whatnot. I'm only halfway paying attention. And I could hear the stepfather recalling a time when he was in the Korean-American War back in the 1950s. And very casually, he refers to Koreans as gooks. And I'm like, wait, what? Did this man just say what I think he just said? And so at first I'm surprised.
Let me get this straight. You were surprised that an elderly war veteran who was exchanging war stories would use a derogatory term for the enemy, which was commonplace at the time, but has since become antiquated and politically incorrect. You were surprised by this. Why on earth would you be surprised by this?
But then that quickly transforms into anger. I'm pissed off. I'm angry. Because let me just give you some backstory. My mother's Filipino. My family's Filipino.
Your family's also white on your father's side, or I suppose more correctly, Swedish, if we go off of your last name. Not necessarily a relevant factor to the conversation. I just find it an interesting omission that you would mention your maternal heritage and not your paternal heritage. But moving on.
Some of the most important people in my life are Filipino. They're in this room right now, Like, I'm going to have Filipino kids with my Filipino wife. You know what I mean?
I suppose. If it's an imperative to marry a Filipino woman and have Filipino children who will be a quarter white, I don't mean to keep dwelling on this, but it's just very odd to me that he leaves out half of his entire family heritage from this conversation.
On top of all of this, the etymology of the term gook originates from the Philippine-American War, when the American soldiers overheard the Filipino freedom fighters speaking in their dialect, and they mocked them. They called them gugus, and gugus evolved into gooks, so this gets me mad.
Obviously so, but you've already given away the ending to this story. You did not have your Kanye West moment here, so what exactly did you do?
And then he says it again. Okay, so now I'm ready to just flip over some tables. I'm ready to set it off.
Yes, I'm sure that would have gone over very well, but you obviously did not do that. So?
During the week, I work at South Seattle College, and I teach students about social justice. This is what I do, and I'm ready for this. I know this conversation. I've been prepared for this my whole life.
Well, if you say so, but when put to the test, you choked. Why?
But I hold back. I hold back because I don't want to disrespect my dad. And, I'm fuming, I'm seething, and I didn't say anything. I hesitated. And then the moment passed, and I couldn't bring it up anymore. And it felt like I let down my mom. It felt like I let down everybody, you know? And that is not something that you want to experience. It's better for you to appear disrespectful to someone than be silenced when there's some injustice that's happening.
You were a guest at someone else's home during Thanksgiving. An old man said something that made you mad, and you held your tongue. Out of, you say, respect for your father, I will accept that, sure. I think also it would have been a completely unproductive encounter to have. And you started at the beginning of this video saying, what was it again?
Just because you don't like someone doesn't necessarily mean that you can't learn from them. Because if you only learn from the people that you liked, well, you would only know half of everything that you need to know.
Did you consider listening to the man's stories? Did you consider asking him why he referred to the Koreans as gooks? Did you muse on considering whatever his answer might have been before reacting? Before getting mad? Before assuming he was making the comment in hate rather than just in reference, maybe? Do you actually practice what it is that you preach?
Because I'm telling you, this is supposed to be a moment when you're alive. This is when you're supposed to liberate yourself. This is when you're supposed to feel joy. It's just a glorious feeling. I'm telling you, it's amazing. And of course you're going to be scared. Of course you're going to feel doubtful. But you're supposed to overcome that because you're supposed to grow. That's what you do.
But you didn't. Thankfully, you didn't yell down an old man at Thanksgiving because your feelings got hurt. I would give you credit for self-restraint, save that you now regret not yelling down an old man at Thanksgiving. Kind of negates the sentiment. Of course, we are leading up to what you consider to be your Kanye West moment, so let's continue.
Because I'm telling you, this Kanye West moment, man, once you have one of them, then you're going to get addicted to them. You're going to want to have another one. I'm telling you. Then next thing you know, you're just going to be spouting right off at the mouth and just sharing your truth with everybody that you encounter.
Yes, I'm sure spouting off your truth at everybody you encounter will make you a very popular person. Unless your truth, of course, is twinged with deceptions and falsehoods. But we'll get to that.
Because I did have a Kanye West moment. Oh, and it still stays with me to this day. I remember it.
And here we go.
It happened on January 18th, 2016, downtown Seattle, right in between Marion and Madison, right next to the Federal Building. It was for the Martin Luther King Day rally for the city, and I was selected to be one of the speakers. You know, and just to give you a little backstory, so the night before, I'm rehearsing a speech. I'm practicing it, I'm going over it, and something is just not clicking. Something is just, it's a little off. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I don't feel it. You know, and I've been speaking for about 8 years, so I know what I'm doing.
If you say so.
And at the midnight hour, boom, inspiration comes. Oh, yeah. And then I know exactly what I have to say. Exactly. How could I have not seen this before? And so I completely discard my speech, and I just say, you know what? I'm going to speak from my heart.
And I am sure it's going to go swimmingly.
So let's fast forward. Now I'm standing back at the podium, right? Man, a sea of people, a sea of faces, like 2,000 people. 2,000 people. I'm used to speaking to like 10 people at an open mic.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
And I just soak it all in, like, okay, they don't know what they're going to get, but they're going to be thankful that they got it. And then I begin, and I say, sisters and brothers, thank you for this opportunity. And then I proceed to give the speech. And in this speech, basically what I expressed was my frustration with the fact that we even have to have an MLK Day. Because I'm frustrated. I'm angry about that. That's a federal holiday, mind you. That's a state-sanctioned holiday. And what gets me so angry is that there are so many elected officials that proclaim Dr. King to be such a great leader that everyone should aspire to. But if you thought he was such a great leader, why in the world would you kill him?
What the hell did you just say?
In 1999, there was a civil suit in Shelby County, Memphis, Tennessee, where the federal government was convicted, found guilty for conspiring to assassinate Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, this is in public documents. And this is what I said. I said this in front of 2,000 people, man. Woo!
No!
Okay, I could go on for a very long time into minute detail on how incorrect this statement is, but I'll keep it as brief as I can. This case originated from a television interview with a man named Lloyd Jowers in 1993, in which he claimed to have been hired by a mafia boss for $100,000 to arrange for an unnamed assassin to kill Dr. King. In 1998, the King family filed a wrongful death suit against Jowers, accusing him and quote-unquote other unknown conspirators of having murdered King. These unknown conspirators later evolved into unnamed governmental agencies. Despite evidence that Jowers made up the story to get a book deal, despite the fact that witnesses for the King family recanted their stories, and despite contradictory evidence to the claims made by both Jowers and the King family, the jury decided in the plaintiff's favor. But being a civil trial, no one was convicted of anything. And despite several official investigations before and after the verdict, nothing was ever found to substantiate Jowers' conspiracy theory. But this case is often cited as proof that the U.S. government assassinated Martin Luther King, just as Mr. Eckloff did during his Martin Luther King speech. So with all that said, on we go.
But this is a Kanye West moment. And every single person in this room will have this Kanye West moment. But you have to be ready for it. And you have to be ready to step up when that, because your mind is going to tell you one thing. Your mind is going to try to convince you to be quiet, to don't stir the pot, to keep the status quo going.
Yes, your mind may convince you that this is a bad idea, but ignore that. Go with your first reaction. Go with your reflex. Don't think, just speak.
But your heart is going to compel you to speak. And if you do so, you will gain in confidence, you will reaffirm your value, and most importantly, you'll be able to inspire other people to speak up.
In 2005, Kanye West spoke with his heart and not his head. And 5 years later, he went on to regret his actions after he listened to the person he disagreed with and learned something outside of his bubble. Just as you advise we all do, Mr. Eckloff. You held back from dressing down a war veteran for saying something you didn't like. A war veteran in whose home you were a guest at Thanksgiving. You then decide to inject unfounded conspiracy theories into a speech meant to honor Martin Luther King Jr. on a day of remembrance for the man and his work, to conjure up divisiveness rather than cooperation. You did have your own Kanye West moment there. You had the one in the heat of Katrina. I wonder if you will have a more transformative one 5 years from now. Thanks for watching.